Hey, what's up, everybody? It's great to see you all. Welcome to another exciting episode of Feature Fest. Today, we have a pretty awesome topic. So, we're going to do a deep dive into dashboards. And just to introduce myself, sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. So, just to introduce myself, my name's Elliot. I'm the manager of customer enablement here at ClickUp. And I did have a couple of housekeeping items that I wanted to go through before we get started. So, first of all, the session length today is 30 minutes, so it's relatively quick. We've got a ton to cover, though. Just be aware, we've got a chat and a Q&A. I can see everybody's already started to submit their chats in the chat, which is awesome. We love seeing where you're from. I saw some really cool locations like Fiji and South Africa and Philly, which is actually where I'm based. And then also just be aware that at the top of your chat, there should be a tab for Q&A. So if you have any questions about dashboards as we go through the session today, be sure to drop those in the Q&A. We've actually got a team with me backstage. They're answering those questions live. And also, that's where we'll be polling questions and answering those questions and demoing live for the last few minutes of the session. Now, along with that, just wanted to call out that the session is being recorded. So we'll definitely make sure to get that recording out to you at the end of the session. And then also, if you head to the top where you can see the Q&A, there's also a link for docs. If you click on that, you should see a link to a wiki for today's webinar. And that wiki is going to look like this if you click on it. So this will take you to the Feature Fest wiki. In here, we've got things like an FAQ on dashboards. We've got links to all of our previous webinars. So if you want to see any of the previous webinars or webinar topics, we've also got an area here to provide product feedback. So if you've got feedback for our product team, you can actually head to Canny and provide that feedback there. And then if you have general questions, we've got links here for our help center. So you can go and talk to our support team. And then also, just be aware at the top of the screen, there's also that button to request a one-on-one. So if you did want to talk to a member of our team, you do have the ability to click on that button and do that as well. Now, I did want to just briefly go over what we plan to cover today. So we'll start by just showing you how you can quickly get started using dashboards with templates. From there, I'll talk a little bit about why and how to build good data inside of ClickUp, which will lead to even better dashboards. Next, we'll talk a little bit about building dashboards from scratch. And then finally, I want to give you a preview of some upcoming dashboard features that we're really excited about. And of course, we'll always end the session with live Q&A. Now, before we get to the dashboard templates, I did just want to ask, who here has actually already tried using dashboards? Or is there anybody here who feels intimidated by dashboards and doesn't know where to get started? Because I have a few key takeaways for you today. And the first one is that dashboards really are for everyone. And hopefully, by the end of today, you'll feel like you have the tools and the knowledge and the ability to actually start using dashboards, regardless of your use case or your position in your organization. So to start, I'm just going to hop over to my workspace here. And just to demonstrate that, today we'll be working out of the project management space. And here you can see that I've got a current projects folder. And right now, all of my projects exist as lists. So each individual list that you see here is actually its own project. And I'm just going to start in this system consolidation project. And let's just say that within this project, I wanted to create a dashboard. So here you can see these are all of my project deliverables. I've got the statuses captured here. I've got priority, start dates, due dates. I've also added things like time estimates and durations and a few other details. And let's just say I wanted to create a dashboard quickly to get an idea of what's going on with this individual project. Well, now we do have dashboards as a view. So if I go ahead and click on the plus view button here, all I need to do is head over to the dashboard view. And when I go to add the dashboard view, you'll notice that you're going to be prompted to start with a template. So if you're looking for a particular place to start your dashboards, I would definitely suggest taking a look at some of these templates, deciding which one might be best for you. If you're looking for getting updates on what's going on with all the team members that are contributing to a project, team reporting is a really great starting place. If you've got a project or multiple projects that you want to have oversight on, the project management template is also a really great starting place. For today, let's just stick with the simple dashboard so we can demonstrate a couple of card ideas and dashboard ideas for you. So let's go ahead and click on the simple dashboard here. And there's a couple of really useful pieces of information here. So right now, we're seeing how many tasks are currently unassigned, how many tasks are currently in progress, how many tasks are completed. So it's a nice way to get kind of quick understanding of what state your project is in. Scrolling down a little bit, we've got total tasks by assignees. So you'll be able to see how many tasks are currently being worked on by each assignee. And by the way, you can update this. So if you didn't want to use percentages, you could also turn those percentages off and see the total number of tasks instead. And then we've got open tasks by assignee. This is a bar chart card, and we're actually going to go through both pie charts and bar charts together as we build out our cards from scratch. Now, along with this, on the right-hand side, we can see tasks completed this week. We can see latest activity. We've also got this nice workload by status battery chart that's giving us an idea of the total amount of work and then how much work is currently in each status. And then coming down here, we've got tasks due this week or overdue. So again, this dashboard template is a really great starting place if you're just looking for how the cards can actually contribute to your overall understanding of your projects. And this brings me to my next key concept. So one of the other things that we often get asked when it comes to getting started with dashboards are, when is a dashboard appropriate, or when would I want to use a dashboard? And I think one of the other things you want to think about is the fact that dashboards aren't limited by location, meaning that you can pull data from any location into a dashboard in order to report on it. So what I'm going to do here to demonstrate that is let's head up to the folder level instead of the list level. So now we actually have oversight on all of these projects. And let's just say that there's data from different projects that we'd like to pull in to a single dashboard. So here you can see I've already actually started to create my own dashboard. And I'm going to click on the dashboard here. And here you can see I've already started to build cards for the system consolidation project and the data merge project. And what we're showing is workload by status. So just to show you how we might build that ourselves, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and choose add card here. And in this case, we're not going to use the featured cards. We're going to use custom cards. This way we have full control over the card itself. We're going to choose a pie chart. And then we're going to go into the card settings. And this is one of the things that I was excited to show you, is that the card settings have gotten much more approachable in dashboards as well. So along with the dashboard templates, you now also have card settings that make the cards much easier to use and easier to understand. And of course, anytime you create a card, the first thing you're going to want to think about is the data source. So where are we pulling the data for this particular card? Clicking here, you can see that I'm not limited by location. I could create a card based on data from literally any location in this workspace. Now, in this case, I really just want to see across these 3 projects. So let's go ahead and open up the current projects folder. You can see because I'm in that folder, it's already automatically selected all of the contents of this folder as the data source. But right now, I just want to pull in the data from this data merge project. So let's go ahead and pull that data in. I'm actually not going to show these as percentages. I'd prefer to show them as total numbers of the tasks. I also prefer the donut shape to a pie shape. And then we're going to measure number of tasks, and we're going to group by status. And we're not going to limit any statuses here. We're just going to show all of the statuses. Now, along with these controls, you also have the ability to show your closed tasks here or show archived. You also have the ability to add specific task filters. So if I only wanted to see the deliverables of this project, I could do that because I've already created that task type for deliverable and applied that task type to all of the deliverable tasks within this project. So I'm just going to go ahead and type task type in here. and I'm going to choose deliverable. So now I can go ahead and apply my filter. And the last thing I want to do here is just show the legend. That way we know specifically what each color is in reference to with regard to status. Okay, let's go ahead and close this out. This looks good to me. Now all I need to do is resize it and move this card alongside the others. And by the way, resizing and moving has also gotten an upgrade, if you can't tell. So that's gotten much easier and cleaner to work with also. And let's go ahead and rename this for the data merge project. So now looking at these three pie charts, you can see that one of these pie charts is not like the others. This data merge project that I've just created is different than the CU launch and the system consolidation in that the colors are different. You can see that we've got open tasks, plus we've also got not started tasks. We've got tasks in progress, and we've got tasks that are marked as running. And if I were to try to understand the difference between sort of where we were at from these three projects, for these two, it's pretty easy for me to understand. But for the data merge project, it's not totally clear. And that's the final key takeaway that I have for you today, which is that good dashboards need good data. And I think one of the first places where you can look to ensure that you're capturing the right kind of data is going to be your status sets. So in ClickUp, if I go to the actual lists where this work is taking place, you'll be able to see that when I go to the list settings and I go to my list statuses, here we're using the status template of current project status, which covers these things, which is exactly the same on both my system consolidation list as well as my ClickUp launch. However, if I go to the data merge project, you can see that we're using all of these different status sets. And these different status sets coincide with a different status template that we're using. So again, I'd just like to reiterate how important it is to try and keep your statuses as simplified, as standardized as possible. And if you're doing work like marketing or content creation or any of those things that maybe have a QA process or a sub process involved, rather than try to capture all of that process within your statuses here in the main statuses, what I would suggest is you can see in my system consolidation project, rather than capture a design QA process within the status set, I've actually created a design QA drop-down field so that the design QA team can actually update their specific QA process alongside the standardized statuses that we're using for our team. By doing this, I much better organize the work for my teams. I keep things more standardized so it's easier when we're using dashboards later, and I lose nothing. The QA team can still use these statuses to make their approvals. And if they wanted to create their own view where they're actually able to view the QA process on its own, maybe in a board view, so they can visualize that process, it's still possible because you can actually group by custom field. So I can go ahead, group by the design QA process, and I can see the tasks that are in that process. And because I've separated the sub process from the main statuses, this board view is also much easier to manage. I barely have to scroll to see across the entire process, when if I were to do that in, let's say, the data merge project, I would have so many statuses that I'd be doing a lot of scrolling to try and find the end to ends of the board. Now, one final tip that I'd give for just ensuring that your statuses are standardized is that if you are your workspace admin, you should have access to your workspace settings. In your workspace settings, you'll have access to this spaces location. And in your spaces location, you can actually see the status sets that are used across all of the spaces and for all of your teams. So this would be a great way to kind of audit the status sets of your teams and say, hey, maybe we should try to standardize these a little bit better, because later on, as you're doing reporting, as you're building out your dashboards, it's going to make that reporting and dashboard building much, much easier and a smoother process. Now, I also did want to talk a little bit more about data capture in ClickUp. When we use the dashboard templates, or when we're creating dashboards ourselves, ClickUp will do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, but we just need to make sure that we're capturing all of the data points, because if we aren't doing that on our own, then there's not going to be anything for ClickUp to pull from. So in your tasks, at a minimum, I would suggest make sure that you're capturing things like your assignee, your status of your work, making sure that maybe you're using priority or at least using start dates and due dates. This way, you'll be able to really easily capture all of the things like how long a task has been in a certain status, who's been assigned to a task over a certain amount of time. You'll be able to see very easily which things are overdue. So a lot of the reporting that you want to do is actually going to be pre-built into the platform as long as you capture it inside of your tasks. And then if you want to go beyond the basics, I've got some other ideas for you here as well. So first of all, take a look at the left side of my tasks here. You'll notice that we have this little pencil icon. This is indicating that we're using a task type here. So you can see that I'm actually using this deliverable task type to indicate when a task is a deliverable versus a task that's a milestone versus things like my risks and issues. This makes it really easy to filter and group my dashboards later on. And then heading back to my project tasks, just a couple of other ideas here. I've got a project phase that I'm capturing. I'm also capturing a team custom field. So again, I can group or filter based off that team. And then heading to a higher level, so headed to the folder level here, you'll notice that I also have tasks that actually represent each project as a whole. And I use these tasks for oversight. And in these tasks, I capture things like the budget, project expenditure, actual total cost. And then this is a formula field where I'm actually calculating the remaining budget. So this would be the budget minus the actual total costs to give you the remaining budget. And then I've gone ahead and created an AI custom field here. So I've always had difficulty with some of the formula fields, especially doing things like if-then statements. And I realized that AI actually makes those if-then statements incredibly easy, because all I had to do was create an AI custom field that is going to show whether the project is within budget or not, based off of those fields that I had already created, based off of the budget and the total expenditure. And then it can give me a big green yes or no, whether or not the project is still within budget or over budget. So now that we got a strong foundation in how to capture the data that we need to build our dashboards, it's time for us to build some dashboards from scratch. And to do that, there's a few things that we want to do first. So the first thing we want to do is we just need to think about what are the questions that we're trying to answer with our dashboards. So some good ideas for you to maybe consider when you're starting to build your dashboards are things like, is our project on time? Are we within budget for our projects? Or what does work distribution look like across my team? So these are some very simple questions, but based off these questions, we can start to build dashboards that show us tons and tons of really valuable information across our projects and across our entire workspace. Now that we have our questions and we have our data, it's time to start building our cards. And I'd like to spend just a couple minutes talking about some of the different cards that we have and the benefits of using those cards. So to start, let's talk a little bit about pie charts. I think if you're looking for a place to start, you're looking for your first card that you ever add to your own dashboard, I would definitely recommend doing a custom pie chart. Pie charts are great for a quick snapshot of how data is distributed across certain categories. And the best thing about ClickUp pie charts is that you can actually click into the data and see actually which are the tasks that are contributing to the pie chart that you've generated. Next, we've got bar charts. So bar charts are one of the most powerful cards you can use in ClickUp. And the reason for that is that they have multiple variables. That means you get an x-axis, you get the y-axis, but also you get custom grouping. So you've got 3 different variables that you can play around with to build really nice visualizations of your data. Some good use cases for bar charts are things like your sales team, so seeing who's hitting what sales numbers or who's got what deals and what positions across your sales process. Also, if you want to see things like work distribution across your teams, bar charts are really great. And then one other card that I just wanted to call out that I think often goes overlooked is the calculation card. The calculation card gives you real-time calculations. You can do things like budget tracking, ticket management is a great use case for a calculation card. Or if you're in marketing and you want to see marketing campaign performance, that would be a great opportunity to use a calc card as well. For the sake of time today, I thought I'd keep things relatively simple. And let's just go ahead and build out a custom dashboard from scratch together. So heading back to my workspace now, I'm going to stay in the folder level. I'm going to head back to that dashboard that we had worked on previously. Let's go ahead and add a new card. And again, anytime you're building a dashboard from scratch, I'd recommend using the custom tab here. This will pull up all of the different cards that you have access to. And for each of these cards, you can completely customize it. So as mentioned, let's go ahead and build a bar chart. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to head to the settings. And again, just like with those pie charts, we're going to start with the location or the data source. So where's the source of the data that we're looking for? In this case, we now actually want to look across multiple projects simultaneously. So previously for each of those pie charts, we had only done one project. Now we're going to do all three of these projects together. So let's go ahead and use that as our data source. We can go ahead and keep the data labels. That's fine. I don't think we need to show the legend, but for our x-axis, what we're going to be wanting to do is actually do assignee. For our y-axis or our measure, let's stick to number of tasks. If we were capturing things like level of effort, we could do that here as well. And you do have the ability to group by things like the status. So if you wanted to see the distribution of statuses of the tasks across your team, you do have the ability to do that. But for today's dashboard, let's go ahead and stick to none, just to keep it super simple. But I think the last thing I want to do here is just sort it. So by sorting, we can really help paint the picture that we're trying to paint here. So let's go ahead and sort by values. And so what that's going to do is it's just going to line our bar chart up based off of the values. And then you get a really clear picture of how much work is actually distributed across each team member. And it's immediately apparent which team members are doing the most work versus the team members that maybe don't have as much. All right, this looks good to me. Let's go ahead and close this out. I'm also going to go ahead and move this out of the way here. And then let's create a new card. It's going to be a calculation card. So we're going to head back over to custom. This time we're going to choose calculation. And here, what I'd like to do is build a card that just shows tasks overdue for each of these projects. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the settings here. Let's go ahead and choose the data source one more time. So again, we're going to start with project management, current projects, deselect everything here. We're just going to do system consolidation. From there, we're going to do the task count. But now we want to use our filters. So filters are going to allow us to see specific information that's important to us. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to filter for the due date is, and we can just type overdue in here and pull that up and then hit apply. And now we're looking at the specific number of tasks that are overdue for this system consolidation project. Now, I've already actually created these cards for the other two projects, so I've got those just down here. So let me just pull these up. And the other thing that I think also sometimes goes overlooked, but brings a lot of value to your dashboards, is the usage of these text cards. So I've actually already created a tasks overdue card here, which is just a text card where I'm using a heading 1 designation to make it look nice and visible and clean. So hopefully from here, you now have a better understanding of how your dashboards actually work inside of ClickUp and how to start building those dashboards for yourselves. And just to briefly review what we covered today, so we've gone over how to use dashboard templates, how to ensure that you're building better dashboards by incorporating better data. And finally, we talked a little bit about how to incorporate dashboard best practices into the custom dashboards that you're building. So now I'd like to spend the rest of the time today to just do live Q&A and answer any questions that you might have about dashboards or anything that you've seen today. Cool. All right. So I know there was a ton that we just covered and we got tons and tons of questions. I think there's a few things that I wanted to cover first before I get into some of the specific questions that we had about dashboard functionality. So first of all, the session was recorded. We'll definitely make sure to get the recording out to you so you can watch it in your own time and review everything that we went through. Secondly, I know that the dashboard settings that I showed are relatively new, so I can even just head over to my my screen here. And so when I was showing how to update the dashboards, yours might look a little bit different, but just be aware those settings updates are actually coming really soon. So it should be relatively shortly that when you go to update your dashboards, you're going to see it and it'll look exactly like this. So it probably doesn't look exactly like this right now, but it'll look like this very shortly. One other thing that I was really excited to show you today, and I did get permission to show this. So I'm really excited to show you. We got a lot of questions about publicly sharing dashboards or other ways to visualize dashboards or see dashboards. And soon in the platform, you're going to be able to add dashboard cards in lots of new locations. Some of those new locations include things like your task descriptions and your docs. So just to show you an example of that, let me go ahead and head to my system consolidation project. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new doc to this project. And in this doc, when I go and open my slash commands, what you'll see is that scrolling down here, I now have the ability to actually add dashboard cards to my docs. So let's go ahead and choose the general card setting. And I'll just do this workload by status as an example here. So this is now me showing you a dashboard card inside of a doc in ClickUp. And of course, your docs are also shareable. So that is one way that you may want to think about sharing your dashboards in the near future. So be on the lookout for that. It's coming really soon. We're really excited about it. And then just to answer a couple of the other questions that came through. So we did get a few questions about some of the settings, some of the task types that I showed and some of the other ways to set your data up for success. So when it comes to your task types, there's, I think really everything that is related to dashboards is always going to be related to the data that you incorporate in the platform. And so when you take a look at task types, it is going to be in your settings. So if I head to my settings within ClickUp, here at the bottom is where you're going to find task types. And the task types that I used today in my demonstration were actually custom task types. So that deliverable task type that you saw that I used in my task to denote when a task was a deliverable versus a milestone versus the actual project task or the project level task, those are specific task types that I just added to the platform myself. It's really easy to add task types. All you have to do is click on the Create Task Type button here. And this is where you'll be able to create your own task types yourselves. I think the other questions that we had were in relation to data as well, were just things like, when I created that custom QA process and kind of had a sub-process within my process and moved that out of my statuses, all I did there was add a custom field. So in this system consolidation project, all I did was add things like a project phase custom field, where this is just a drop-down custom field where I'm adding things like the phase or the team or a design QA process. And then because ClickUp is so flexible, you can actually organize your views based off of these custom fields. So I can actually group my views by custom field, whether that's my list view like you're seeing here or a board view. All right, I think we're just about at time. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to join with us today. Really appreciate all the questions, all the comments that came through. Again, the session was recorded. We will make sure to get that recording out to you. And just want to say thanks for your time. and we really appreciate having you. So looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks again.